All right, we are live with this week's Austin market update, and we have a lot going on. As usual, we are going to chop it up and we're going to talk about the market summary. We're going to talk about buyer credits and the things we want to consider for closing costs, temporary buy downs, permanent buy downs. We're going to talk about relocation and the 5 key things that everyone who is in the world of consideration for moving to Austin, Texas, or anywhere else for that matter is thinking about. With that said, this week I come at you live with my partner in crime, Mr. Mark Karetskiy of Movement Mortgage. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be back.
Absolutely. Well, it flew by because last week you were sick.
Last week I was. Now I don't even remember that. And then this week I just did the Spartan.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
How'd that go real quick?
It was awesome. It was so much fun.
I love it. Well, you've been training.
I've been training stronger than I imagined.
There you go. I love it. Well, I'm proud of you. You really have been working hard.
I appreciate it.
So you know who else has been working hard?
You have.
Well, yeah, the folks of Austin, because I got to tell you, there is a lot going on. People are putting their houses up for sale, Mark. We are holding steady at that 3.1 months of inventory. We still are over 10,000 homes for sale. And last week we were talking, and I was saying that it's the highest it's been since 2011. You thought it was 18. I went back. 2011 is the last time we were really like this high up. So it's very cool to see what's been going on. And the big thing isn't that we have so many houses for sale. It's really about what does it all mean, right?
That's for sure.
Yeah. So here's what we know. As usual, I like to look at the numbers to see where housing affordability hits and what it means when we're reading all of these headlines, if you will, and fear mongering in the news. And so I looked at what was happening with price decreases in Austin because I think that that's really important. It's not something that I tend to always dive into, and we have in the past, but I really want to talk about it today because we had 1,082 price decreases in 1 week.
In 1 week.
A little over 10,000 homes for sale in the market, and 1,082 of them had price decreases.
A little bit over 10%.
Yeah, exactly. Now, of those, 70 of them already are under contract. So that's pretty cool. And when you look at where that falls in the marketplace, I was looking at the numbers. And when we look at the $1 million plus market, 143 of them were $1 million to $3 million. Okay, 143 of them. Now, that's 10% of the decreases. Here's the thing. When we really look at the sweet spot between the 500 and the 999 number, 710 of the homes that had the decreases fell within that price point. So literally 65% of all the houses that took a decrease in the last week were in that sweet spot of just under 500 to $1 million.
And that's that kind of upper middle class, right?
Exactly.
And who's seeing the pinch more than anybody right now.
Yep. And of that 65%, 50% of them fell between the 500 and the 750. So literally half of them fell in that price point or in that decrease.
And so over the long term, I mean, those houses are not in jeopardy at all in losing value, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I hear something like that, I smell buying opportunity. I think we're going to talk about it a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I think it's healthy, right? Like what we've lived through the last 24, 30 months has been unhealthy. Yeah. And so welcome back to normal.
Yeah. And not only do we have price decreases, which we always do, it doesn't matter what the market is, we are always seeing decreases. 224 houses actually came back on market in the last week.
We see a lot of that, right? I think a lot of it has to do with really lack of communication and lack of understanding of what's going on in today's markets. It's almost like buyers are still watching our updates from August and September, and we're in the middle, or I guess the end of October, and rates are no longer at 5.25. They're around 7.25. And so that definitely takes a bite out of affordability. Mm-hmm. And means the consumers got to make different choices, right? And so that's why I always say with my buyers, with my agents, we've got to stay in constant communication. It could be a week before you go under contract. It could be 6 months before you go to contract. Whatever time frame that is, it's a different market, right? And so it requires that we stay in constant communication.
Yes, the market is fluid, just like any market that we see. And real estate, as we know, is a lagging indicator of our economy. And so while we are seeing these price decreases, and we're also seeing houses come back on the market, I know this is going to be shocking to you, but of the 224 houses that came back on market, more than half were in the $500 to $1 million range.
I mean, is there anything even out there below 500 though?
There is. Absolutely, there is. In Austin, well, I have to look at the full numbers,
I
but
mean, relative speaking, right? Like there are a lot fewer of them than there are 500 to 750 and 750 to $1 million.
correct, because those two usually break up at about almost 2/3 of the market.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, 45% ish. So yeah, we definitely have houses that are below 500. Again, you're going to go outside the city limits, or you're looking at condos.
Listen, I think regardless of what it is, we all need shelter, right? We've talked
Yes.
about it. And the options are dwindling, even though we have more and more inventory. Like we don't have more options as far as can we own or are we renting? It's one or the other.
And if we rent, we're paying 100% mortgage rate
100% interest.
of interest. Yes. 100%.
It's not even 100% interest because when you're paying interest on your mortgage, that
At least you're buying it
generally
down.
tax deductible, right?
That's true.
Yeah,
That
your
is
rent
true.
is just out the window.
Yeah. Yeah. And so let's talk about that, because one of the things we said we're going to talk about today is relo. And we know that we have people coming to our city from all over the place. Last week we talked about it. We talked about California, and then we still have Dallas and Houston that are consistently moving to the Austin market. That doesn't change. And so some of the things I wanted to chop up with you today for relo, and I have a funny story to tell you, maybe not funny, but let's talk about the sort of what I'm calling the 5 key things for relocation that people want to consider. Now, number 1, which we both agreed on off camera, was employment status. You want to talk a little bit about that, Mark?
It is so overlooked. Like we get so excited, oh, we're moving, where are we going to move to? Let's start exploring all the neighborhoods. Nobody thinks, oh, what are we doing for employment? Employment and income is a huge factor in somebody qualifying for financing. And so during the COVID kind of migration that we've all seen, a lot of buyers are ready, willing, and able to move. And one of the biggest things that they forget about is my employer actually enabling me and allowing me to move? And am I going to be working remote, or am I going to have to find a new job? And that's a completely different direction and journey that a buyer goes through, because one of them is quick and easy, and it's just a letter that says you're going to be remote. The other is interviews and processes and actually going through that logistics. And then once you get that offer, at that point, for a lot of programs, specifically conventional, a lot of consumers are going to be able to qualify with an offer letter, bunch of caveats attached. But the main thing is it's a full-time position, and it's starting within 60 days of closing. And so if somebody can pull that off, then a lot of the times they're able to actually get into the house and get the financing before they actually start that new job. And so that in and of itself is one of the biggest keys to relocating successfully.
Absolutely. And so they either have the same employer or they have a letter of employment from the new company. All right. That was number 1. Number 2, I like to call it status for sell or buy. Do you need to sell your current place before you buy in Austin, Texas? Or are you set up in a position where you know that you can turn around and negotiate during the sales process of your last place?
And listen, it's never easy, right? Like whether you have to do it or not, nobody turns to their spouse and says, hey, honey, let's pack up all of our stuff and box everything up and let's scream at each other for the next 30 days, right? Like buying and selling real estate is not really a fun experience in general. Like you're picking up all of your things. And so figuring out the logistics of where you're going is one thing, but where are you today and what needs to happen today in order for you to be successful tomorrow? That's where we come in. And listen, there's no one size fits all answer. It's not a cookie cutter approach. Everything is personal and everything needs to be custom tailored to whoever is in that situation.
Yes, moving is highly personal. And that's where I tend to have a lot of discussions with the buyer who is selling in another city. I'm talking with their realtor. I understand the status as the agent here. It's part of the negotiations. We also make sure that they have finances in order for negotiating in the first place, because no matter what, when we are negotiating, you still have to plop some money down, right? When you're considering buying the house, so that having that money set aside, and then there's the closing costs. Has your other house sold? Has it not sold? You may be coming with a bridge, or, there's a number of things to consider on whether or not you are selling and then buying. Are you doing them at the same time? Like, how does that all work?
Right. And I mean, in Texas, for the most part, we table fund, right?
Yep.
A lot of states, especially California, that's not a thing.
Yep.
And so you've got to figure out the logistics, not just on your buy side, but we've got to stay in communication with the seller's agents on that listing side, on that departing side. And so it's always fun. It's always, if it's not one thing, it's the other, right? The bottom line is we're here to make it as easy as possible and as fluid as it can possibly be.
And it really does come down to just constant and open communication.
We're going to kick the horse dead and then we're going to beat it after, but that is what it takes. I mean, communication goes a long way, and in extending offers on these new places, you see this firsthand. The difference between an agent who's communicating on behalf of their buyer with the seller, as opposed to the agent that's just taking an offer and submitting it, that is a completely different experience. And so communication, it's almost the same thing as location.
Absolutely. And just for the record, no one condones beating horses on our show. And let's go on to our fourth position, which is the key considerations when you are relocating: lifestyle. Like, what's really important to you when you are moving? Because I'm looking on the real estate side for how can I help you meet your lifestyle goals as it relates to where you are relative to, say, your office, your religious affiliations, your workouts, the closest Whole Foods, and
Your
then
family, your
your
friends,
family,
right?
whether you may be moving closer or further away.
Right.
And then Mark is working with you on key considerations for lifestyle to make sure that we can have your budget fit your lifestyle needs so that you have more than enough money to do all the things that you love to do when you're not in your house.
And that's important because your house is important, but you also have a life. And so it's got to go hand in hand.
Absolutely. Lifestyle. And the last consideration, obviously, Mark, that, to bring to the table is you as a relocation family, individual, whatever that is it's building your team and having some people who can quarterback for you so that we're not at 4th and 10 and needing to punt. We're all, we're just driving forward and taking you to the goal line.
Your team is more important today than ever before, but I see way too many buyers. I see way too many sellers underappreciating the value that their real estate team provides. Relocation buyers, more than anybody, you need somebody that's looking out for you, that's not just hungry for the next sale and just pushing you into the next home. You need somebody that's looking out for you, your best interests, not just today, but what tomorrow.
Absolutely. And I would say that a big part of that is because people don't move every day, they don't understand, nor could they, what the pieces of the puzzle are and how many moving parts there are in the progression of, from the time you talk to say, hey, I'm moving, to the time you're getting the keys. A lot of things happen in between. And so, yes, your team who has experience with that is hugely important because again, it's, you and I are really the two biggest pieces of the puzzle. Then there's the movers, then there's maybe your packers and unpackers, then there's your title company who obviously is to get all of the paperwork done. That there's a lot that goes on. I know I have the people that are, behind me. You've got the people that are behind you. We're the face for our clients, but they meet both our teams during the process, right?
Right.
So there's a lot that goes on in the world of relocation, and it's just something that we hadn't really talked about. And so I'm glad that we got to do that today.
It's so important because as somebody that's relocated in the past myself, right? As somebody like you that's
Yeah.
relocated across the country and
Yep.
across countries, you don't always know you're going to stay in that location, right?
Right.
Like it's a brand new place. And so for those that are watching, like it is okay for you to kind of dip your foot in the water. It's okay for you to actually get and acclimate and get to the place before you absolutely need to buy. There are a lot of people that shouldn't go out and rent. There are plenty of people that it is okay and makes perfect common sense for somebody to dip their foot in the water, get a 3-month lease, a 6-month lease, even a year lease, just to make sure that they're actually going to be happy in this lifestyle that they're signing up for in this brand new location that they're moving into.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's a time and a place for everything, and getting clear, and depending on how long that journey is from the time you identify you're moving to the time you're actually moving, gives us a lot of room and ability to introduce you to various neighborhoods, to get comfortable with the schools. Is it a private school? Is it a local school? Which independent school district are you part of? Where are all these things related back to lifestyle that we were talking about earlier? So yeah, it's putting those pieces of the puzzle together so that there is a level of consideration. You're feeling safe and secure in making that move of buying, or you're making that move of leasing. So absolutely agree with you.
In a world of uncertainty, it's our job to provide the maximum certainty possible. And at the end of the day, we can't do that when you're 1,000 miles away. We need to be able to see you. We need to be able to actually understand you. We need to be able to actually go out there and see the world together. So that way we know we're on the same page.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. And with that in mind, we know that the market has shifted. That takes us to the sort of our third segment of the show today, which is what is happening now with buyers and sellers, and the fact that sellers are coming forward, which we haven't seen in the last few years, to help with closing costs in certain situations.
In years past, that was honestly the price of doing business, right?
Mhm.
And so today, more than we've seen very much since 2019, the seller concession is back, and it's more useful today more than ever. You know this, Jennifer, the audience that's been watching, I'm cost averse, right? That's why a lot of people love me. They don't like paying costs either. But the reality is whenever you're buying and selling, there are closing costs,
Yeah.
right? That vague and scary term. The bottom line is they're there. The bottom line is somebody needs to pay for them. And the bottom line is in today's environment where we have less buyers than we've had in years past, and we finally have some more sellers than we've had in years past, that seller concession can go a long way, whether it's just reducing that out of pocket and taking care of the cost, or whether it's actually reallocating that and distributing it and deploying it in buying down the rate. In today's environment, that's critical, right? And so a lot of buyers are being forced to pay points right now just to get a rate. Others have the ability to get more creative and more lucrative in what we've talked about with the temporary buy down. We know the market rates today are higher than they've been in years. We also know that that's not sustainable in and of itself. And so in the short term, rates will come down. That will continue to put more pressure on affordability and home prices as they continue to go up. And so today, it's this little window that buyers have where they actually have the sellers on the ropes a little bit, and they can actually negotiate on their behalf as opposed to saying, what do you want? Right? So I think it's a good thing available right now. The question is what's the right way to actually leverage it for you?
Right. You used some insider terms that I'd love to break down for the folks. First of all, points. Why don't you talk to people, Mark, in the world of mortgages? What does it mean when you are buying down points?
So typically, well, I guess to take a couple steps back, there's no one interest rate, right? There are a lot of different interest rate options. Typically, there's going to be an interest rate that somebody can qualify for where they're not paying any money to get that rate. That's what we call no points. So they've got their regular down payment, they've got their regular closing costs, they're not paying extra money to get that interest rate. From there, a buyer more often than not has the ability to pay more money, called points, to get that rate lower. And the idea there is lower rate, lower payment, but more out of pocket, right? So that's the trade-off. In theory, somebody can also do the opposite. Instead of taking that market rate, they can take a relatively higher rate and the lender will give them money towards their closing costs. So the trade-off there, higher rate, higher payment, less out of pocket, right? In today's market, where rates are continuing to creep higher, but the reality and the expectation in the market is that rates actually go lower in the short term, makes it really difficult for investors and for lenders to actually get pricing out there. And so right now, if somebody doesn't have the best credit scores, right now more than ever, to get an interest rate, they're likely being forced to pay points. And so the idea is they can actually get into the home. And it's really the point of it is that upfront out of pocket is ensuring to that investor that when this loan goes to get refinanced in the next 12, 18, 24 months, that the investor actually makes the money that they're entitled to make, right? And so today we're seeing more and more of that, where to get an interest rate, somebody actually has to pay some nominal amount of money to get it. That's where these seller concessions and closing credits can really come in and play a big impact.
Yeah. And at some point, we should probably pull up another screen. We're not going to do it today, but we can pull up a screen and show some math because it really is the difference of tens of hundreds of, you name it, thousands of dollars that can make a difference on where we look at buying down points. If it is a temporary buy down, if it's a permanent buy down, if it's closing costs. I mean, all of these things come into consideration when you are a buyer. So that is something where really having a great mortgage lender on your team is hugely important because that's called strategy. And that strategy is the difference between money in your pocket and money that just evaporates.
Right now, I'm a big fan of these temporary buy downs. They are temporary, but they are refundable. And given what we're seeing and what we're expecting, that refundability piece is massive, right? You know, I just said it. I hate paying costs when I don't have to.
Yep.
And so this is a way where you can really get a dollar for dollar decrease. And then when that time comes around, and if it is before 24 months, then you can get that money back, as opposed to when you do the old fashioned way with the permanent buy down, those points, as soon as you're closed and you're the homeowner and you're in the house, that money's gone.
Okay. Can you break that down and simplify it a little bit?
Well, so points and buying down the rate, it pays off over time,
Yeah.
right? Question is how much time, and it's different for everybody based on the rates and based on the loan amounts and everything. With the temporary buy down, whatever that decrease is over that period of time, that's the amount you pay. With points, there's really no rhyme or reason to it. It could cost $1,000 to get it down by a significant chunk, and then paying 5,000 could do very little on top of that, right? And so it's figuring out these sweet spots of where can we allocate the money the right way to where it's maximizing the efficiency of our dollars.
That's the name of the game, maximizing efficiency of dollars. Oh my gosh. Okay, if you took nothing away from today, maximizing efficiency of dollars is the name of the game when it comes time to having your mortgage dollars work harder and harder and hardest for you. And Mark, I guess as you said, there's no two mortgages are alike, and that's where really getting in contact with people and running through scenarios with them comes into play.
For sure. And that's where, at the end of the day, don't buy your house as a speculative investment, right? Like if you're buying a home, make sure you're buying the right home. As we've talked about before, marry the house, date the rate, get yourself monthly affordability. All else is going to be good.
Yes. And when you say marry the house and date the rate, we are not advocating for the fact that we have some crystal ball, that we believe that rates are going to come down huge in the future. We are saying you're dating the rate and you are planning for the fact that rates may go down, and you are also putting money away, basically, so that if they go up, you've got the cushion.
Monthly affordability is always number one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let's end on that note, monthly affordability.
I mean, it's not the most sexy topic, but at the end of the day, it's tried and true. Don't go house broke. Make sure you have an affordable payment. If you do that, then all else is going to follow.
All right. Well, I think monthly affordability is sexy, just for whatever that's worth, but I'm warped like that. So, all right. Well, thanks for coming out this week, Mark. It's been great.
You
I really
are
appreciate it.
welcome. I'm glad to be here. I appreciate you taking the time with me.
Absolutely. All right. Well, my name is Jennifer Goodman. I'm a realtor here in Austin, Texas. Mark and I will be back next week, won't we?
Of course.
Absolutely. If you have any questions, thoughts, concerns on the market, what we've said today, do you agree, disagree, have a story to share with us? We would love to hear from you.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.